All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the West Essex Milwaukee School Board to order. Ms. Carr, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Suzette, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Keller,
Here.
Mrs. Carr,
Here.
Mr. Sikich,
Present.
Mr. Burns,
Present.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Here.
Ms. Deal, here, Mrs. Lee is excused, and President Lee.
Here. Proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do we have any modifications to the agenda this evening?
No changes this evening.
Okay, then we'll move right into the superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you and good evening, everyone. We'll start with 6.1, the legislative update. There's a record $52 million in library aid to go to public school libraries next year. So Wisconsin Public School Libraries will receive the $52 million from the state's Common School Fund for the 22-23 school year. This amount is not only the largest ever annual library aid distribution, but represents a 27% increase from the 2021-22 distribution. So that's going to help us with our libraries with technology. Then the state's potential budget surplus is now projected to be nearly $6.6 billion. In a statutorily required report, the State Department of Administration, or DOA, said the state's fiscal condition is in the best position it has ever been, and it expects a nearly $6.6 billion budget surplus to end the current fiscal year on June 30th, 2023. That figure is well above previous expectations that the surplus would total roughly $5 billion. So that is good news, and we're anticipating that some of that comes to schools in the next budget cycle. So that would be good news for the state and for schools in particular. 6.2 is Board of Education recognitions. So from Central, thanks you to Kaylee Sexton for excellent leadership for Test Fest and the Career Fair at Central. At Longfellow, they'd like to recognize Mr. Yoder for facilitating the start of our Longfellow News with a Z team. This group of Longfellow students work hard to capture the wonderful learning and excitement taking place at Longfellow each and every day through pictures, interviews, and research. We'd also like to shout out Allie Friedkin and Allie Cardwell for continuing to facilitate our student climate team at Longfellow. The students are currently working on a design contest in order to identify an artist at Longfellow to design and paint the girls' bathroom stall wall doors. For communication, Dr. Stewart, thank you to Principal Johnson from Pershing Elementary for providing a great interview and school tour for the CBS 58 hometown team. Pershing and other Village of West Milwaukee landmarks were featured in the 58 Hometowns series on November 17th. And then from the music department, from Mary Pat Michaels, Savannah Burge from FLW participated in the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee Honors Band weekend. She played flute in the Illinois Band, which is named after the state where the guest band director teaches and lives. Savannah was nominated for this honor by our FLW band teacher, Mrs. Sarah Goldner, who is also an alumna of FLW and Hale. Also, thank you to the orchestra students at Lane and FLW and their teacher, Mary Pat Michaels, for kicking off our holiday concerts on November 16th and 17th. Students were joined by a special guest, me, who played multiple percussion instruments, including a drill, with all of the orchestras at both schools. Thank you to Mrs. Sarah Goldner, FLW band director, and Ms. Rihanna Henderson, who is student teaching at FLW and Lane with Mrs. Michaels, for their valuable assistance at both concerts. Our music department's concerts create lasting memories for students, staff, and community. A full list of the concerts for the entire 22-23 school year can be found at the link that would be available if you look at this document online. And then members of the choir at Nathan Hale, FLW, and Horace Mann will perform for the West Allis tree lighting on December 3rd. And the high school bands from Nathan Hale and West Allis Central will march together in the Christmas parade that immediately follows the tree lighting. Thank you to Talia Hylett, Josie Clary, Mary Pat Michaels, Shannon Shamoyama, Kristen Wichakowski, and Heather Gander for preparing and directing their students in these performances, our community during the holiday season. And then 6.3 is some quick updates. First, response to public comment. So there was one comment at a regular school board meeting on November 14th. Again, regarding our efforts to encourage students to become social justice activists, and similar to previous responses, so we've responded to this in the past. We do think educating students to be active in improving the communities in which they live is a good thing. And additionally, we think that educating students to understand and pursue greater social justice is also a good thing. Improving communities and shaping communities and our society to be more just are good things, and we're proud that this is part of our work. A little bit in school consolidations updates. So we scheduled, and then we'll be communicating shortly, a community event at Longfellow to explore options and ideas for the use of the building after the schools consolidate. So we're going to be doing some leafleting and door hangers in the neighborhood to invite our neighbors and local businesses. So this event is on December 20th. I put 30th. It must 20th. Yeah, I have 30th in my notes. It's on December 30th at 6:30 p.m. at Longfellow. So that outreach, the 20th, that outreach will take place in the coming days. And then like in the recognitions that Mary Pat Michaels noted, we're moving into the holiday season. So schools will start to see me getting to as many elementary concerts and other events as I can fit in the schedule. I went through the month of December, and right now there are 32 concerts, musicals, or school or other community events. Some of them conflict with themselves, so they overlap each other. But I'm going to get to as many as I can. I started that as a tradition 8 years ago, and obviously it fell off during COVID. But I'm looking forward to just the running around and getting to as many places as I can during the holiday season. Was a lot of fun. And to do that tradition one more time, is something I'm looking forward to in the coming weeks. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to public comments. For those who are unfamiliar, if you would like to address the board, you have 3 minutes to do so. Please start with stating your name and your address. The board will not have any back and forth discussion. However, if there's simple questions or things need to be clarified based on the comments, we can do that after the speaker is finished, but there will not be any further discussion beyond that. For those listening via Zoom, if you'd like to address the board, there is a link in the Zoom chat. Please fill out the electronic form there, and we will give you an opportunity to address the board. Currently, we have one person signed up, and that is Mr. Steve Broadwell, who is on Zoom.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry, I've got a cold, so I sound a little funny, but anyway, Steve Broadwell, 12965 West Ohio Court, New Berlin. I've got more to say about that book you commented on, Marty, the 300-page indoctrination guidance workbook for Hale and Central teachers called High School Math Lessons to Explore, Understand, and Respond to Social Injustice. It says, I will join with diverse people to plan and carry out collective action against exclusion, prejudice, and discrimination. This book is a tool to advocate for social change using children as active agents. We imagine the teacher who is interested in developing students' disposition towards social justice more generally, as opposed to math-centered. Social justice instills within each person a responsibility to collaborate with others for the common good. It highlights the UN definition of social justice as the fair and compassionate distribution of the fruits of economic growth. Social justice requires resource equity, fairness, and respect for diversity. It entails a redistribution of resources from those who have unjustly gained them to those who justly deserve them. 4 authors of this book feature one who was the Dean of DEI at University of Virginia, one who authored the Common Core Math Companion, one with a focus on equity issues, and one that boasts of a he, him, his identity showcasing his wokeness. Leftist indoctrination found in this book could have been written by Marx, Mao, Stalin, or even Zapatista, who was featured in the book A is for Activists, that this district felt appropriate to put in the Hoover Library until we complained. No wonder surveys show up to 70% of our young adults prefer socialism and over 1/3 prefer communism, as witnessed in the recent election where Marquette students voted 5-1 in favor of the socialist Mandela Barnes. Universities and now our public school system are teaching kids to hate this country, sometimes overtly, but often with subtle indirect approaches like this book that the authors admit will upset parents and likely cause a family rift as leftist ideology is pushed into our kids' heads. You seem hell-bent to continue with your focus on behavior modification that sure doesn't seem to be working, rather than academics, evidenced by the district's downward spiraling performance, now better than only 5.8% of the students in the state, down from 9.2, and rated as meets few expectations. On track to graduate was better than a paltry 2.9% of the state districts. Yet Marty, you write letters to the community trying to put lipstick on this pig. As an example, in your recent letter to the community, you cited Dotke as a school showing improvement. Perhaps so, but a published 2021 DPI table has them ranked as the 6th worst school in the state for 2021 school year after 6 years of you at the helm, and now only better than 5.4% of the high schools in the state. Rather than be embarrassed by your performance, you gush about how well the district is doing. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Broadwell. Sorry about that. The timer was up. So just unable to communicate until your audio is closed off. So we don't have anyone else signed up right now for public comments. I don't see anyone here in person who would like to provide those comments. So I'm going to close public comments at this time. And we'll move on to item 8, our board reports, starting with 8.1, a review of the board calendar. So today is November 28th at 6 p.m. We have a regular Board of Education meeting, and immediately following we have a closed session. Then on Monday, December 12th at 6 p.m., we have a regular Board of Education meeting. And then we have a college and career readiness workshop talking about the panorama results and student attendance. And then on Monday, December 19th at 6 p.m., we have a regular Board of Education meeting, financial stability and efficiency readiness workshop meeting, other post-employment benefits review. All right, so let's move on to item 8.2, our committee reports with 8.2.1, communications and community relations. Mr. Sikich.
Yes. I'm actually giving 2 reports from our last meeting, and I know we had a meeting tonight that I'm just going to include with it.
Okay.
For brevity's sake. At our meeting on October 24th, 2022, the Communications and Community Relation Board Committee meeting discussed the following items. First, we reflected on our school showcase, excuse me, on October 17th, Dodke, FLW, Hale, Lane, and Pershing all did super jobs in showcasing their work of their students and teachers. It's always great to see the kids talking and teaching us what they're doing. Additionally, we discussed including high school students more in our photo and video work to support their learning in photography and media classes. Finally, we discussed the superintendent search, stakeholder groups, and a communication about these opportunities to provide input on the superintendent search. At tonight's meeting, we discussed the spring parent survey engagement in early discussions about connecting with our families leading up to the survey window. We also talked about working the survey into the school's activities and offering iPads for families to fill out the survey to make it more convenient for them to participate in that. We brainstormed ways to engage different groups during the survey window, such as Spanish-speaking families, partnering with principals and offering some surveys via mail / paper. And that is a recap of our last 2 meetings.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sikich or his committee regarding his report? Or any items that you would like to see considered at future meetings? Committee. All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Sikich. Moving on to 8.2.2, employee engagement and culture. Mr. Keller.
All right, thank you. We met on November 15th. Pretty quick agenda. We talked about parental leave and some of the additional information that we've got so far in regards to that and reviewed that. We're looking to get some additional information and continue to look into that. We also reviewed policy 4162, which we will have our first reading for later this evening. We talked a little bit about our building consolidation update in terms of the communication that we're having with the staff. So the different meetings that we've had so far, what kind of that's going to look like throughout the course of the year, and some of the key areas that we're making sure that we stay up to date on in that regard. And then we talked a little bit about contract timing. We're looking at changing that a little bit to push that up a little bit more, just to be a little bit more advantageous in some areas, to give people a little bit more time from a planning perspective and so forth.
So just,
And that was it.
just to clarify about the contract,
Mhm.
you mean say push it up, you mean like releasing the contracts earlier and having them due back earlier, or just having the due date back, return earlier? What is that?
Distributed earlier and I believe due back a bit earlier.
Okay. And then just on the parental leave, what information are we waiting on right now, or are we gathering?
So far, we've been gathering approximately the number of affected staff members and kind of looking at the cost in terms of days missed, temporary subs and so forth.
Okay.
And then we're just looking to compound additional information so that we can get a good picture in terms of what we might want to do going forward.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Keller or his committee regarding his report? Or any topics to be considered at future meetings? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Keller. Move on to 8.2.3 Recreation and Community Services. Mr. Sikich, once again.
Hello again. We had a short committee meeting on Monday, November 21st, and we were updated on the RFP, which is request for proposals process, and the selection for the upcoming addition at the Recreation Center. We'll be bringing forward a recommendation to the board in December. And then we were updated and had discussed on our facility projects, including the new Recreation Center at Lane, the youth sports fields at Irving, and potential needed facility improvement at our West Dallas Athletic Complex. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sikich regarding his report? I guess I have one quick question regarding the updating facilities at WAC. Is like, how is that? Are we just inquiring with people who use it, or is there like a formal survey that's going to people, or how? are we going
Well,
about that?
last spring,
Mhm.
we toured the complex and made a list for Steve of things we'd like to see improved. And she kind of gives us an update on how that's going.
Progress. Okay, got it. Okay. Anything else anyone has, or any topics for future consideration? Seeing none, move on to 8.3 board member reports, community events. Any events, Mr. Sikich?
I want to give the loudest shout out I possibly can to the youth musical and the performers in Joseph. That it gave me goosebumps. It was super. And had my granddaughter not had a hockey tournament on Sunday, I would have gone back the next day to see it again. It was that good. So,
Fantastic.
super job. It's just great.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sikich. Anyone else? So I do want to echo those comments. I did not go to the show myself, but my wife and my daughter did. A 9-year-old daughter, and she came home singing all the Joseph songs and needed to get the Joseph Technicolor Dreamcoat soundtrack, and was playing some of it on her violin. And thought Elvis was hilarious. So the performer who did Elvis. So I want to echo, I think that it's a fantastic job. And as Dr. Luckman had put in his email, a great showcase when we're able to move those to recreation where they have a larger budget, they can put more into the shows, and we can see what sort of productions that our district can put on. So kudos to all the performers, all the stage crew, which is an integral portion of any show, as anyone who's been a part of the show knows, the orchestra, the music, and then obviously all of the volunteers and the staff that put in the time to put on all those rehearsals to get together. We have the Mr. Sikich.
And don't forget, we saw how they made the palm trees.
That's right. Yes, we did. We did see how some Nathan students did that. So awesome. Thank you so much. If nothing else from anyone, I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity. Move on to 8.4, other updates and information items. So this is from me, just a small update on the superintendent search. So we had made our decision about what the profile of the superintendent would be based on the feedback that we gotten from all the focus groups and the survey. And so I just want to thank everyone who took the time to attend a focus group or fill out the survey. That's what we wanted as a board, to be able to try and take that information and roll back into what we wanted our profile for our next superintendent to be. So thank you very much for everyone who participated in that. Right now, the posting went live on November 15th. It will run through January 15th. And so I'm sure we don't have an update right now. I don't know if anyone has applied or anything like that, but I'm sure we'll get one from Braden Associates here soon. So after January 15th is probably when we'll have our next sort of things that we as a board need to do. We start considering candidates in first round interviews. All right, so moving on to our consent agenda this evening. We have item 9.1, which is the approval of minutes from our regular Board of Education meeting on November 14th and our board workshop meetings that was on November 21st. 9.2, our employment summary. 9.3, our supplementary contracts, and 9.4, our financial summary. Does anyone need anything separated out? If not, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right, that passes. Move on to our action item this evening, just one. 10.1, approve updated board policy 4162 as a first reading. And I'll wait for Ms. Marshall to get up here so she can tell us all about it. Unless there's introduction.
Good evening. This is another policy that needs to be updated. It goes hand in hand with the previous policies that we approved. And it is on the controlled substance and alcohol policy for employees that transport students. The main update is that the previously it said the district administrator was responsible, and we've updated that the responsibility ultimately is with the superintendent. So this is a first reading, and then we'll bring it back.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
any questions? No? All right, I look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. All right, well, that concludes the business portion of our meeting this evening. We'll take a 5-minute recess while we take down the cameras and move into closed session. We are in recess, everyone. All right, I would look for a motion in a second to move back into open session.
So moved.
Second.
Can we have a roll call, please, Suzette?
Mr. Sikich,
Present.
Ms. Deal. Here, Mr. Burns. Or is it yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Mr. Becker,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Carr,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee is excused, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
President Lee.
Yes. All right, so in our closed session, we discussed our, make sure I get the name of it right here. Emergency Operations Plan, which needs to be updated every 3 years.
Mhm.
So we discussed that and are looking to approve that.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. And then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.